Good morning, Kirksville. You're tuned in to 88.7 The Edge. This is Kirksville's True Alternative. My name is Damian Chavez.
And I'm Summer.
And this is Summer and Damian in the morning. I think that was the first time I threw my last name in there.
Yeah, it is. I'm actually kind of impressed.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I always thought radio DJs were like not supposed to use their names. You know, like
Maybe.
we're supposed to have like our DJ names.
Okay.
You know, because
But we
listening to
don't-
the radio, like the bigger radio stations, they have like weird nicknames and stuff. Because I hear like you get stalkers if you're like a really cool DJ with a sexy voice or something.
Oh, man. That's it for us. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's definitely people who
And we've talked
love
about
us.
where you live before.
Have
that
we?
happened.
Well, they
That
could
definitely
identify my
happened.
house. Yeah, they could find it, I think. That's true.
Actually, I saw you driving home one time. I was following you
On
on,
my bike,
normal.
or-
No, you were in your little Mini Coupe. And
Oh, thanks. Now they're going to know I drive what car I drive,
I
too.
know everything about you, Damian. Actually, it's
know.
probably my fault. But yeah, I saw you, so now I know where you live.
Oh.
It's a good house, though.
Thank you. We have a nice
Again, you should have me over.
Okay, it'll happen. It'll happen. Well, but we don't really have DJ names. We haven't really experimented with those. I
No.
threw some out. I used to throw some
Yeah,
out.
we tried it a couple times.
Didn't stick.
I'm just not good at coming up with something creative, like, on the spot.
Yeah.
I like totally freeze up.
I always like go back kind of to similar things.
Yeah,
Doesn't really. I don't know if that's creative or not. Maybe not.
it was the first time.
Yeah, and then ooh, thanks.
So what's up? How's your week going? Like, what's been going on?
Good week, busy week,
Mm-hmm.
graduating.
Yeah, man, have you like been checking off? There's like a checklist, like a graduation checklist.
Kind of. Yeah, I started on my portfolio. That's due tomorrow.
I didn't. I'm not turning it in tomorrow.
It's not.
Well, because isn't that like the consequence that they just process it late and
Yeah.
they may not process it by the time you walk? But I'm not walking, so they can just like
They'll let
process
you
it.
walk. They just I think they'll let you walk.
Well, I'm not walking anyways,
I
so does it matter?
No. Well, to get signed off on things, you
Mm-hmm.
need to get signed off.
Yeah. I have everything done except that. I think I'm turning in like Saturday or Sunday. That should be fine,
That's
right?
not an issue. No,
Okay.
it's not an issue.
Good.
All you have to do is email them and tell
I
them.
looked at it and I got really intimidated as I just stopped.
No, tomorrow I'm going to be in the library all night.
Really? Well,
yeah, come over.
Okay, Damian, my capstone was due yesterday, so that's what I'm going to be doing
Okay,
today and tomorrow.
okay. No, I'm in a similar boat. No, I'm excited for the show
Yeah?
today. Yeah. We got a lot of good stuff.
We do, and we have a great guest coming in at 8:00.
Yo, what's our guest?
Michael Berman. He's with the Eco Environmental Group on campus. So he's going to be talking a little bit about what Eco does at Truman and in Kirksville. And also he's going to be talking about Truman's first ever environmental studies conference, which is this
Hey!
Saturday. I'm presenting
he's
at it.
putting that together, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Okay,
Yeah, so
good. And
this
you're
is kind of
presenting? Great.
his brainchild. So
Good.
he's going to be talking about the speakers coming in and
So we got Michael coming in at 8. 8 o'clock hour. Great.
yeah.
That's good. Before we've talked about how to create an effective online dating profile.
Oh, yes.
Last
Damian.
week, we talked about how online dating might be making you a worse person. And so you're sitting at home listening, thinking, Damian, Summer, what do I do? How do I do this? Well, I've got the solution this week, and that's effective. I've got tips for effective flirting.
Oh, gosh.
And so
okay.
we'll talk about that.
I don't know if I'm supposed to take advice from my own radio show, but I've been thinking about it this week, like some of the dating tips we've been talking about, and some of them are kind of unnerving.
Oh, it
Like
gets
when you
better.
apply it to real life or your own relationship.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to get better, too.
Okay, I'm excited.
Yeah, and then I've got some news out of Germany.
Yeah, me too.
3 stories out of Germany.
Today's just a Germany thing. And oh, man, our guest, he lived in Germany for a while.
Oh,
It's
there
just
we
a
go.
German-themed show.
Let me find some German music.
But we do, yeah.
Let me get some German music. Well, we're going to take a break, but you've been listening to Summer and Damian in the morning on 88.7 The Edge. Jackson Brown, The Loadout Stay. I'm really happy to play that tune, Summer. I really enjoyed that one.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I never heard that before.
Oh, it's good. It's
Wait,
good.
who are they?
Jackson Brown, he's just this singer.
Oh, okay.
And he plays songs.
Sounds like Frankie Valli.
So yeah, sounds like Frankie Valli. But yeah, so I saw this in the index this morning. The top story. The cover story, Truman State named top value college. It's ranked 12th on Kiplinger's Personal Finance magazine list of top value public universities for this
So
month.
now the nation knows what all of us have known for some time now.
The nation knows, but here's the thing. We're ranked 12th. That's not high enough.
Where are we around? Like, what other schools are we comparable to?
All right, let me look. So, New College of Florida.
Okay.
So, top 3. Let me give you top 3. University
Okay.
of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Good school.
Which doesn't make any sense. How does that make sense?
Why doesn't that make sense?
Because it's an expensive school if you're not from North Carolina.
They give plenty of financial aid.
Okay.
And then I think they take into account how much. They take into account debt at graduation, and then how much your earning potential.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
University of Virginia, University of Florida, College of William and Mary. Those are the top 4. So 12, we're not high enough, I think.
Really?
We could be doing a better job. I didn't come to this school to be 12.
So is this Truman rebranding thing going to get us there, Damian?
Oh, I don't know. We should have someone from PR to come on and we talk about that.
We do need to talk about that.
Because this
I have a lot of questions about that.
I have a lot of questions and I have a lot of answers. I have both. So 12, I didn't come to Truman to be 12. I came to Truman to be number 1 in the country. We are the number 1 in Missouri, so you can talk public university in Missouri. So you can talk to all your friends that go to Mizzou and other schools and tell them, we're number 1.
Yeah. It's really funny being like an out-of-stater coming here and hearing all this like Mo competition stuff. It's just very comical.
It's huge.
It's
huge.
really big.
I felt like in high school, where I went to school, the University of Missouri was the pinnacle of higher education for most of my peers.
That's really funny.
Like, I don't know what it was in Illinois.
I mean,
Maybe
it wasn't like that for us.
Illinois
also, because
was like
our
the big school.
Well, also because our schools are extremely expensive because our state is bankrupt. So we don't get any funding to go to school in state. So it's actually cheaper for us to go to Mizzou than to go to U of I.
Really? Jeez.
Yeah.
Come on, Illini.
So actually, you're helping us a lot. Thank you, Missouri taxpayers.
So 12. Step it up, Pano. This is not the change I voted for.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I want more. I've only got a month left or so, but I think we could see some positive changes.
Maybe we need more T-shirts. Like we've got, the Harvard of the Midwest, and
I hate
what are
that.
the other? Maybe you need to like create a new one, a new T-shirt design.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Like I saw someone say it was a T-shirt. It was like Truman State University, the Merrimack Community College of WashU, something like that.
What?
Yeah, like it's a little more realistic.
I don't know
maybe.
how I feel about that.
It's like the little cousin of WashU.
I mean, I remember when I was in high school and I was talking to some people, some strangers, basically, whose kids had gone to Truman, and they were just like advocating for me to go to Truman.
Yeah.
But they were talking about how it was going to be like the next WashU, like WashU started where Truman is now. Like these great schools had to start somewhere, and said Truman's kind of on that trajectory.
You think?
I don't know. I mean, I think it has the potential. I still don't know how I feel about this like new direction we're going in. We're struggling a little bit right now.
Well, we are struggling. Enrollment and admissions, enrollment's down. And applicants are down, but that's a trend across higher education, especially in the Midwest.
Yeah,
schools are suffering.
Yeah, and our budget is not helping.
Our budget's not helping, and so that's why I'm very receptive to anything I hear about weaning ourselves off of state funding. And trying to be more self-sufficient.
What do you think?
Area.
I mean, that's going to take increasing tuition a little bit, right? I mean,
every
is
year.
that such a? I know it happens every year, but I think
every couple of years.
Truman has ridiculously low tuition rates compared to like other schools, comparable or not. I mean, it's just like one of the lowest anywhere.
Yeah, it is, especially for the value.
So, if you had like a younger sibling who was applying to college, like, would you recommend or sibling or whoever?
Absolutely. I've talked to many high school students. And I always have to talk. I'm wearing a Truman sweatshirt right now. I
Actually, I have that sweatshirt.
I walk around promoting Truman every day of my life. This isn't a hobby. This is my life. So yeah, everyone I talk to, especially seniors and juniors, I'm like, hey, Truman's a good school.
Yeah, I told my sister to come here. She was thinking about it, but
how old is she?
She's a freshman now. She chose a different school. She applied, but I think it's like some of our departments are so tiny,
like classics.
Yeah, like she wanted to do like anthropology, and I mean our SOAN department is great, but it's just extremely small, and the elective selection is very limiting.
Probably not a lot of resources for research,
right? And a lot of our professors are leaving and going on sabbatical and retiring. So
not for everyone.
It's not, but it's a good place. Would you ever teach here?
Yeah, if I taught anywhere, I'd teach here.
Yeah, and live in Kirksville again?
Yeah.
Man.
Let's do that.
I would love to.
20
See,
years.
no one believes me that I want to move back to Kirksville someday, or maybe just stay.
How about this? In 15 years, if we're kind of vocationally ambiguous, let's come back here.
Yeah, do you think they'd give us a job for vocationally ambiguous?
So what do you have to offer? We're vocationally ambiguous.
But we love Truman.
Yeah, but we love Truman. 15 years we've been waiting for this opportunity. Well, we'd have to do something then to have him
Todd
back.
Coons came back. He and his wife came back. They were Truman grads.
He came back, and they're both working here now, the universities, as far as I know.
All right, we'll see. 15 years.
15 years. Yeah, we'll do this. All right, what else do we have? We got
a couple news stories. Got some updates on the Malaysian air crash. So they claim to have found remnants of the crash in...
Wait, I don't know anything about... there's a plane?
We've talked about this on our show, Damian.
No, we haven't.
Yes, we have. We talked about it for a long time.
Okay.
So the Malaysian Airlines crash, it's a Boeing jet.
From St. Louis.
From St. Louis, that's right. It crashed a while ago. It disappeared was the wording that was used. It disappeared. 239 passengers. No one knows what happened. Very eerie, weird mystery story. But now they think they've found remnants of the crash in the southern Indian Ocean off the coast of Australia. So the Malaysian Prime Minister has flown to Australia to help Australian and US and other Indonesian authorities search for this plane crash and kind of address, the family members and kind of just make sure people know what's going on. But what's really interesting is a Chicago-based law firm. I think it's called, Roddick & Co. It's a Chicago-based law firm that has taken it upon themselves to sue Boeing and sue Malaysian Airlines on behalf of the passengers. I think one of the law firm's lawyers is a family member of one of the people on the crash. So and I think a lot of people are kind of criticizing this law firm as saying, like, this is too soon. Like, you don't know for sure that these were technical difficulties that could have been avoided. So they're suing Boeing and suing Malaysian Airlines for mechanical failure, for design failure, things like that.
Negligence, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I think it is a little too soon because we haven't even found the plane yet. Like, we don't know what's going on.
I have a couple questions already. Okay. So the Prime Minister, he's in the water. He's got like some boots and he's like searching through the water.
I don't know how.
That's the impression you gave me.
I don't know how much he's getting his hands wet with this, but he's a figurehead. He's there. He's present. Up. Yes.
Took a look around. Wore a hard hat, maybe.
Maybe
safety goggles. Okay.
I mean, but I appreciate that. That's fine. I think that's a good idea.
Good enough. All right. Okay. And next. That's awesome. The Chicago law firm. They're taking.
See,
it upon
I knew
themselves.
you would think this is a good thing.
I can appreciate it because you know what? There might have been something bad here. This law firm sounds like they're probably going to do it pro bono because, well, maybe the family members pay, but this is social justice. I
mean, I think compensation is a good thing. We just don't know. We don't have answers yet.
We're going to find out this way.
I think they're just jumping the gun.
I think this is how they find out. They take it to court, present evidence, people decide whether or not this was the case. So is this a class action suit? Do they create a class, people wronged by Boeing and Malaysia?
I think so
Airlines?
Because from what I understand, they're representing in bulk like 150 of the 239 passengers. So they're representing like over half of them together. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
So did they have to get the family members to agree to that, or can they just take it upon themselves and say, we are representing these people?
I want to say that they had to get permission because otherwise I think they would have just taken the entire plane, but only like so many passengers are being represented. Also, what's really interesting is the lawsuit is taking place within the U.S., which is really interesting because the plane is like outside of U.S. jurisdiction. Like the crash happened outside of the U.S. borders. It happened in the water, which are international waters. So no one's really sure how this lawsuit is going to progress. But the company that made the plane is a U.S. company. I mean, it's Boeing. So that gives them some reason to file it. And they're filing in Chicago, like in Cook County. So we'll see.
Well, good things happen in Chicago.
Apparently.
This is gonna. You know what this is gonna be? We're gonna find out that Boeing was criminally negligent on their technology.
I don't think so.
And after that...
Are we going to ban them from Truman's career fair then? Is that going to be the big consequence for Boeing?
President Pena, there's no other option. There's so much bad press about Boeing right now. We got to get them out. And this is going to be a really great achievement for people versus giant companies. And in 20 years, they're going to make movies about it, like dramatized.
Yes, yeah. Well, I hear that the reason this firm is going forward with it is because so many of these plane lawsuits have happened in the past. So they're just following like the protocol for previous crashes. They're also representing a recent, I think, Singapore Airlines flight that went down in California. So they're representing people on that flight as well. But yeah, I think if anything, like this lawsuit will jumpstart like It'll be fact-checking. We'll figure out more exactly what's going on with this flight. So we'll see. We'll follow it.
Yeah, only good things can come from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
We'll see.
All right, well, Great. We'll keep an eye on that. I want to know what happens. This is probably going to be a really long process.
I think
though.
so. I think so, definitely.
Especially so many defendants or
Yeah. I mean, and so many governments involved and companies involved and
so much research. They haven't found the plane.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We'll see what's going on. Well, you've been listening to Summer and Damian in the Morning on 88.7 The Edge. We'll be right back. The Cure on 88.7 The Edge. The song Close to Me. I'm feeling like the 80s this morning.
Yeah?
I never got to experience it, but I'm feeling it inside.
Okay.
I love playing The Cure. All right, well, you're listening to Summer and Damian in the Morning. This is 88.7 The Edge, Kirksville's true alternative. So last week we talked about how online dating might be making you a worse person. And I feel like many of our listeners are thinking, guys, what is the solution then? If I can't go online, well, you got to go back offline. That's what the solution is. So
I like offline.
Me too. So today we're going to talk about effective flirting.
Okay.
I've done some research and I'm ready to
offline dating tips from our own Damian Chavez.
And I'm ready to present the findings of my research.
Okay, so is this like applied research? Like, have you applied these tactics, Damian?
Not
some of them?
Some of them.
Okay.
Yeah, some of them.
Okay.
Mostly not. Mostly I found this stuff on research journals and periodicals.
Okay.
And so we'll see how it works in the real world. Maybe we should go out and experiment, like undercover.
Absolutely.
Like hidden camera type stuff. I'd do this.
Okay.
This is the yeah, we could do that.
Okay, so what do you got?
So you want to get someone's attention, right? And you want to make them know that you're interested. So the first thing you have to do is you have to be close to them. The Cure.
Like geographically.
Proximity-wise. You have to be around them. And the closer you are to them, the more they see you around, the more familiar you're going to be. And the more predictable you're going to be to them. And they're going to like you more from that. So it makes sense that the people you date, oftentimes coworkers, friends, people you see around often. And that makes sense because you're safe to them. You're predictable. They know what's going to happen. And they're going to like you more. So you got to be close. You got to be around them at some point, for a serious amount of time. But say you don't have that. You're just out at a bar, at a party, and you see someone you want to get their attention. Well, you could do that. There's still ways to do that too. One thing you have to understand is that people tend to prefer people who are similar in appearance to them.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Even if you think your research has shown that even if you consider yourself a low appearance person, you're ugly, I guess. I don't know what that is. You will prefer people who are on that level. So it kind of goes against this idea that we all try to get like the highest we can get.
But that we're realistic.
Maybe that we're realistic, but also that we're comfortable with things that are like us. We talked about this last week.
Yeah.
We're comfortable and prefer things that remind us of ourselves.
Yeah, like those couples that you see that look like they're brother and sister.
Yes. I'm thinking of one in particular. And
we all know that couple.
True.
Or those couples.
It might be the same couple we're thinking of. Well, so, yeah. But say you're at somewhere and you're not feeling your best appearance-wise, and you think, okay, I need to put my best foot forward. How do I downplay the importance of appearance and still make this move? Well, there's ways to do that.
Okay.
Because you have to combat this appearance thing, because appearance is the quickest way people use to determine whether or not they want to talk to someone, whether they're interested in someone, and that's just what we've learned from psychological research.
Yeah.
So one thing you can do is to combat how appearance is the first impression of people. So your first impression you have to edit it. And instead of letting them build their first impression of you based on your appearance, do something else. Give them something else
to
about
remember
yourself.
you by.
Yes. Give them something else. So instead of appearance, do something funny. Do something interesting. Do something nice.
What if you're like extremely shy and introverted? What do you do?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
But say you have to do so. So if their first impression of you is helping an elderly person cross the street, it's going to make how attractive you are to them less important. And they're going to remember that instead. It's going to help you out. So if you're out there not feeling your best, whatever it may be, think, okay, my first impression has to be something else. I need to do something nice, something funny. And that's going to it's going to help you out.
I get that, because I think I process that. I've seen that happen before.
Yeah. Another thing to keep in mind is that both parties in a like when you approach someone, both parties are shy about making the first move. Neither one wants to make the first move. And the research that I've seen, that's the conclusion that the research I've read makes. And that also it's not really that bad to be rejected. And that we have such a fear of rejection and we ruminate on rejection that it keeps us from making moves that otherwise would have been successful. And they can find this out in research. And it's not quite the same as in the real world, but in lab settings, we find out that two people want to make the first move but are shy about it. Ended up not making the first move when either party would have been receptive to it.
Sure. That's like such an American thing, I think.
Yeah.
After like being abroad and living abroad. Yeah, it's really not like that other places. People like get over that insecurity very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually refreshing.
I've heard of this thing in Japan where if a guy comes up and asks you on a date, ask a girl on a date, that they have to go.
Kind of. It's kind of like that in Asian countries. It's almost like that with any invitation.
Yeah.
It's like you have to say yes out of obligation. I mean, you don't have to enjoy it, but you have to like at least go and try it, which is kind of a good attitude to have about some things.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, do you think it's abused though?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I appreciate it. I don't think I would abuse it, but I'm sure it gets abused.
Well, can girls ask also on a date? Does that also work? Like if you went and asked them?
I mean, it depends where you are. Like in Israel, yes, absolutely. That's why Israel's awesome. That's why I felt comfortable being there. You know, like being in the dating scene in Israel, like was very refreshing from here, where everything feels very stifled and very like uncomfortable. I don't know. But in Asia it's a little different because gender is much more different in Asia than it is in, Europe. Like Israel's very European also. So yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. You ask someone on a date and they have to go, and then they decide whether or not they want to go on a second date. And that's really where that decision comes.
I like that.
I don't know, maybe. But rejection's not that bad either.
Yeah, and it's good for you.
It is good for you. There was a time in high school where I just stopped caring about rejection, and I just like asked out every girl.
Oh my gosh, Damian.
I was like, I don't care anymore. Like, hey, whatever. If no, cool. If yes, hey.
See, I kind of like that attitude.
So
I'm sure you had some really wonderful stories and some good relationships.
It was like I had a checklist, and I thought, well, I never asked that girl out. All right, I better do that. Okay, her.
That's
and I got
so
through
funny.
my list before I graduated. It was perfect.
I probably would have hated hearing that if I was like in high school with you at the time. But looking back, like,
what do you mean hated it? Like
strategy.
As a girl,
I probably
like
would have rolled my eyes and been like, man, that Damian just like making a checklist. But like, I don't know. It's kind of very un-high school of you. And
I guess, yeah. That was for a period. Maybe I'll do that again now in college.
Maybe you should. You've got a month left.
Ask out all the girls I didn't ask out. Take them on just every other day on a date.
That's good.
With a different person.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. That'd be a great way to get out and leave college. Just multiple dates. Okay, well, some research also I found specific advice for females and some specific advice for males. So the way that males and females flirt is differently, and different things work for the different sexes and the different genders. So Dr. Monica Moore, she's at Webster University. She is an authority on flirting, especially female flirting. And her research, what I've read, takes a heterosexual relationship. That's where it's based on.
Okay.
So females trying to attract males. So you might be out there at the bar somewhere, and you see a guy you're interested in, and you want to signal to them that you are interested. How do you tell them? How do you make them know that you are receptive to a move, for them to come over and talk to you? So there's a lot of things you can do. Dr. Moore has categorized over 50 signs, 50 behaviors that females can exhibit that show that they are receptive to a man.
Is this like what we normally do, or what works more effectively?
What she sees.
Okay.
What she sees.
Okay,
Most of these things
observing.
work. Observing. She'll go into bars and just watch people flirt. It's great. Great
That
research.
is really great.
Great research. So, just a couple examples. There's tons out there, but a couple examples. You can prolong eye contact. That's effective.
a big one. Yeah.
You've used it, I can tell. You can stroke or mess with your hair. Play with your hair. Kind of playing with your hair. That works. People do that. Or you can touch your lips or your teeth with your tongue. Also, people call them tells sometimes. Just giving me tells. Giving me signs. That's true. People do that. Girls
Okay.
do that.
Okay.
And that's how a guy can know that the woman is
Interested.
receptive, is
Okay.
interested. And so what's interesting is women aren't waiting around anymore for men to make the first move.
Right.
In 2/3 of the situations that she observed, which involved over 2,000 people in her research,
Yeah.
sizable sample size. In two-thirds of the time, women made a move that let the male know that they could approach.
Mm-hmm.
And so the male thought they were making the first move because they actually walked over and talked to the girl, but the woman was in control.
I understand.
2/3 of
I
the
understand.
time,
This
it was-
makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So her research talked about men being summoned.
Yeah.
So
I
the
see
women-
that. I see
women
that
gives eye
happening.
contact, then the guy knows he can come over. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that's
Interesting.
That's what happened. All right, so say you're a guy though, and you approach a girl and you want her to dance on the dance floor, or hey, I'd like to get a drink with you. Come on and have a drink with me. What's something you can do to increase your chances of them saying yes? Well, of course. You think, all right, I need to look attractive. I need to impress them with my looks. And while looks and appearance are important, as we talked about, effective flirting is much more effective in relationship success, in hookup success, you could call it. And so one quick thing you can do, here's just a quick tip. It comes from the Journal of Social Influence, an article called Courtship Compliance by Nicholas Guggen in 2007. It says, touching someone that you approach is going to help your chances out of them
Sure.
being receptive to you. So
Interesting.
in lab settings and in real world settings, see, the study was pretty awesome actually. They had guys approach a girl at a bar and ask them to dance, or at a club and ask them to dance. And so the variable that changed was whether they touched them. Some of them would touch them for a second or two on the arm. And then during their request and be like, hey, would you like to touch the arm? Would you like to...
And were they strangers? Like
Strangers.
unfamiliar?
Complete
Haven't seen each other
strangers.
before?
Complete strangers. And there was also another setting where they would be out on the street and they asked the girl on a date. Also
I
heterosexual
said-
assumption.
That's interesting. I find that a little unnerving. Maybe just because I'm used to Kirksville, where even if they're like strange guys that you think are good looking at the bars, you like seen them before. You've seen them on campus. You've seen them around town.
Yeah.
Because like I have a friend who's like struggling with his dating life, right? And he's always asking us advice, like, what do I do? Like he doesn't know very many people, but like he goes to the bars and he like wants to date someone. You know, not just like hook up, but he like wants to date someone. And but like. But he uses those same tactics of like eye contact and like maybe touching a girl on the shoulder or like inviting her to dance. But like if girls are not familiar with you, I don't think that we're
Doesn't help.
receptive to that. No,
Well-
especially here.
Doesn't help. Shoulder touching is very friendly, not necessarily signaling attraction. Is
Okay,
what
but
I
it
found
can
in
also
my
be
research.
creepy if it's a guy that wants to dance with you that you've never seen in your life.
Right, and
here
they
in
come
Kirksville.
up and touch your arm. That's something I
Yeah.
thought about was
And I wonder
someone
if,
coming
like-
up and touching your arm or something like
Yeah,
that.
or if like this like big city dating, you know, yuppie dating type scenarios is different from like, you know, students
Yeah,
here in
probably is.
Kirksville.
Yeah, probably is. We talked about the average dating lifestyle,
We
of
did.
the research last week.
Another
$130.
thing that a guy friend pointed out to me recently was that girls, when we talk about attractive guys that we see at the bar, sometimes we say things, and maybe this is just my group of friends, but we say things like, man, our children like look really good someday. You know, like our minds go to like what like the product of our like procreation
Love.
would look like. Yeah, a product of our love would look like. And my guy friends are like, we never think about that when we like look at like an attractive woman.
I don't think so.
That's
I've heard
so
that from
funny.
multiple. I've heard that from people though.
Yeah,
I've heard that from women, girls. Yeah,
it's really funny.
Yeah, guys don't do that now. So yeah, but you can touch someone, and that's going to help your chances out. But you have to be tasteful about it.
Yes,
You have to be receptive to the setting and the context,
and maybe be familiar, at least in.
No, even if you're not unfamiliar with them, this is what's going to push you over the edge. This could be your secret weapon.
No, I don't know.
Well,
Careful with that one.
That's what's proven effective in the research. Whether or not
Okay.
that's ethical, I don't know, but it works. So
Or work some places.
works. Some
Maybe you
places.
should try it, Damien. We'll see.
Let me go out and do this. Like run
Okay.
this test like 100 times.
We need some real data.
Yeah,
And over 30.
100 isn't even. Yeah, I need to get it over 30.
Mm-hmm.
My sample over 30. So yeah, those are some tips to help.
Okay.
I hope people listening can apply these maybe today, tomorrow, this weekend.
Okay.
I want to know if these are successful.
Give us feedback if you try any of our
dating
advice.
Dating tips. Yeah, approach advice.
Send us your success stories or your failure stories.
Right. You can like us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is Summer and Damian in the Morning. We like to post things all week about the show on there, and we'll post podcasts of the show. But yeah, give us some feedback. Has this changed the way you've thought about dating? Remember, both parties are shy about making the first move. Both parties wish the other party would make the first move. That's inspiring. We've been listening to Summer and Damian in the Morning on 88.7 The Edge. We'll be back after the break. The Buckinghams on 88.7 The Edge. Summer, did you know that the Buckinghams, although they never had a huge single or a huge following, they sold more records in 1967 in the United States than every group except the Monkees.
What? I don't even know who that is.
The Buckinghams, classic rock and roll of the 60s. Last night I was just on a roll on it, and I thought I need to play the Buckinghams.
All right.
So that's what we got.
Good.
Kind of a drag is the song.
All right.
Okay, so.
Yes. So I have been really being in college. I'm really late on like seeing movies, right? Like movies that come out or like after the Oscars, the Academy, or like the Golden Globes. I'm always really like late. I have this long list of movies I want to see, and I just like never get to them. But this week I watched The Dallas Buyers Club, which won an Oscar for Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor. It was a big deal. And it's like a biopic. Like it follows the true story of this guy named Ron Woodruff, who was he was an AIDS patient back in the 80s in Texas, and it's kind of just follows his story of like being in certain drug trials, like for HIV and AIDS, and like none of them were working, and so he like creates kind of this like illicit drug ring where he like brings in certain experimental drugs from like other countries and then sells these treatment options like to people in the Dallas area, and some of the treatment options were actually working because like now we've seen that like antiretrovirals are like cocktails, right? Like cocktail mixes of certain drugs. And so that's essentially what he was doing, was creating like cocktails. And like this Dallas Buyers Club, became a thing for people living with AIDS, in the Dallas area. And so you join the club, you pay like $400 to join the club, but then all your medication after that is free. So I think for legality issues, like that's how like the business scheme was set up. But this movie is about him. Matthew McConaughey plays the main character. Matthew McConaughey won an Oscar for Best Actor.
One of my favorite actors.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's surprising.
Ever since Dazed and Confused.
Oh man, that
he's
movie
been
is
up there
so
for
good.
Me.
Yeah, but he's like not really liked by a lot of people. Kind of has this like haughty, arrogant attitude about him.
I love it.
Of course you do. But there's been some controversy about this movie. It kind of goes along with some things we were talking about last week when we were talking about like interracial role playing, right?
Yeah.
And like the new Annie coming out as like a black Annie, and how people are upset about that. But the same thing kind of happened with the Dallas Buyers Club, because the person who actually won Best Supporting Actor, Jared Leto, who plays one of the supporting roles in the movie, Jared Leto is a straight man, and he plays a trans woman in the film, and the LGBTQ community is like coming out kind of saying, why, like how, kind of equating like straight actors playing LGBTQ roles is like similar to like white people replaying like black roles, or like taking on Hispanic roles, or like other roles that they're obviously not. Like, why would you not have, that person playing that? Yeah. So that's been interesting.
That is interesting,
especially because he won so many awards for his role.
So it's going to get a lot of publicity.
Exactly.
It's going to be the poster child at the forefront of this discussion.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
So,
well, what do you think about that?
I don't.
Well, first, let's recap what we thought of what we think of Black Annie.
That's the thing. You have to go back to what we think about interracial role playing.
Yeah.
And actually, like, I've had a problem with it. Like, I've had a problem with white people playing ethnic or playing non-white roles. I think that's a little strange. Because it's like, for a long time, it was done because white people had a monopoly on...
They had access.
They had access, and they barred everyone else from having access to these roles. So I think for the spirit of, like, from which, like, this tradition has grown is wrong.
It's problematic.
It is. It's problematic. So maybe this is the same type of thing. So anyways, like, this movie was really good because it kind of, there have been documentaries made about the whole AIDS epidemic that happened in the 1980s, and the kind of like the drug trials that happened as a result of that. There have been documentaries made, but this was like a movie, like a film that had a lot of.
It's really popular.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people saw it. So I've seen like some of the documentaries, like How to Survive a Plague. That's an excellent documentary, and it's interesting because they kind of tell very different stories. So in How to Survive a Plague, the controversy surrounding the LGBTQ movement was. They were advocating for faster drug trials. Like, you're ignoring us and our symptoms as AIDS victims, and we need drugs right now because we're dying. And so they were like advocating for the FDA to like fast track those drug trials. But like this film kind of shows that there's one drug in particular, AZT, that was fast tracked. And there were very negative symptoms to this drug that people were suffering by taking this drug because the trials were not like stringent enough. So it's like this balance between like needing the drugs and needing them now, but like making sure that those drugs are safe to take. Yeah. So I don't know. It was like the documentary and the film showed two very different sides of the advocacy movement. Also, another controversial aspect of this movie was, did you see Matthew McConaughey's Oscar speech?
Yep.
So I watched it last night because it was like a big uproar. Like everyone was talking about it after the Oscars.
Yeah.
And like comparing it to the Best Actress speech for the other film. What was it?
I don't know.
Anyways, but I watched it last night and I did not like it at all.
Why not? Too cool?
No, Damian. I don't know how you're so obsessed with him.
What do you get? What's the impression you get?
He loves his family, right? That was clear from his speech. But like, it was very self-indulgent, and I felt like it was a show. And especially the end when he said like, my biggest hero is like myself. I don't know. I just found that extremely weird.
I love it.
Is your biggest hero yourself? Like in 10 years? Is that what you would say?
Oh, I hope I can say that.
Oh, no. Gosh.
Well, you win Best Actor. This is the greatest achievement you can have in acting. This is what he's committed his life to.
But maybe that in and of itself is what is so weird to me. Because, like, comparing that to Angelina Jolie's, what was it, Lifetime Achievement or some sort of, like, life award. Like, not a film award, but it was, like, at a film award show.
Okay.
Her acceptance speech was, like, my identity as, like, a human being is more important than, like, my job as, like, an actress.
Yeah.
So, like, not praising her role, but, like, it's very, very humble approach to, like, my goal in life is not just to win acting awards. It's not just to act well, but it's to like help people and to kind of like be a human being, like among other human beings, right? Yeah. Like that was kind of the purpose. So like if your main goal in life is to like, your hero is to like be a good actor. I don't know, that like doesn't sit well with me.
We don't know if that's his main goal or if that's what he spends all his time thinking about. But that is like the epitome of what he's like projecting and like searching for and like striving after is like being that like perfect actor. Like that's kind of what he said he sees himself as doing in the next 10 years. He wants to be the perfect actor. That's admirable.
I guess to Damian that's admirable.
He wants to be the very best he can be at what he loves. And that's what we preach to our children, and that's what we try to accomplish in college, and that's what I'm going to try to do in my life. Right? So I think it's great. He puts out these great performances. It takes a lot of work. It's not easy. No, not everyone can do it. Very few people can do it. And he won the award. He won the best award he could get in acting for a performance he had, and he can have a minute to say whatever he wants.
Well, I guess I'm glad you disagree because it's good to have, I don't know. I'm actually glad you disagree because most people... I'm in
a very disagreeable mood this morning, I gotta say.
But another thing though was just his role that won him this award was based on the lives and deaths of like so many people in this movement, and like how that was not even addressed at all. It didn't sit well with me because every major role like this, where there's like a historical context to this film and to this role, I mean, credit is like given to those lives lost and to those people who you just made money off of, basically. You're making money off their story, and you're acquiring success and fame based on like their struggles. And that was not even addressed at all.
That seems reasonable.
And this
to
is
me.
like an extremely heavy and controversial topic to begin with, that our nation is still healing from. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
But it's interesting. Matthew McConaughey took this role. I think we can assume that he cares about the topic. He cares about the issue of it.
Maybe, or maybe he just cares about himself. I don't know.
Maybe.
I know a lot of people are giving him a lot of flack for it. The role was incredible. It really was absolutely incredible. I mean, moved me. I mean, the film moved me.
Did you cry?
It was wonderful. I don't think I cried.
It moved you inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he did a very, very, very nice job. It was a great film.
Good. This reminds me when you talked about white actors playing non-white roles. In my Spanish course, we're watching Romero, which is about Archbishop Oscar Romero, who was in El Salvador, and he took his church from being apolitical and trying to stay out of the political corruption and military government to becoming a liberation theologist.
Yeah.
And arguing for that the church has a role to play in human rights and liberation of people.
Exactly.
And the movie is just really boring to me so far because it's a topic I'm interested in, and I love South American film, but the dialogue's all in English.
I see.
Seems that most of the speaking roles are lighter-skinned Americans.
Yeah.
And there's so many shots of where I could caption it something like, look at all the poor brown people that are sad. Look at all these poor brown people.
That we fair-skinned people need to help.
Yeah. And maybe it's too much, because maybe all these actors and all these characters that they're portraying in real life were fair-skinned, and that's just the way it was, and it's a little more accurate than my impression of it. But like you said, we can't take away the context of which most of these things happened, because that's what was preferred. That's access, and then people can access it. So it's rubbed me the wrong way, and when that happens, it's kind of like breaking the fourth wall to me. It's really difficult for me to suspend my disbelief. And so scenes that would have otherwise seemed reasonable, that I could get into, now seem even more contrived. Because I don't like the casting choices.
Right. And I see that with like white and white actors, right? So like American actors who work so incredibly hard to like don this British accent or the Scottish accent or whatever to play these like period films or like these, British films or something, and like have won awards because of their ability to assume this like British, like what's her name in Bridget Jones's Diary?
Yeah, Renee Zellweger.
Renee Zellweger. Yeah, she was just critically acclaimed for like her British accent and British posture and whatever. And I thought that was just really, I thought that was strange. Yeah. So, we'll see. I think it's
a fun topic.
Yeah.
Because now we get to talk about it on our radio show.
That's right.
Imagine if it was all made sense. Well, we're going to take a break. We have our guest ready to go.
Yes.
Michael Berman. At 8 o'clock, we're ready to talk about all sorts of great topics here on Summer and Damian in the Morning. We'll be right back. You're listening to 88.7 The Edge. Good morning, Kirksville. Welcome back. You're tuned into 88.7 The Edge. This is Kirksville's True Alternative, and you're listening to Summer and Damian in the Morning. My name is Damian.
And I'm Summer.
You know what I almost did? I almost called myself Summer.
Really?
Would have thrown you off,
I
wouldn't it?
I would have picked up. I can be Damian.
Okay.
At least it wasn't Kathleen. Like, if it's me, that's fine. I can work with that.
But if I say, hey, I'm Kathleen.
Yeah, then I don't know what to do. Kathleen was our old... Damian's old co-host.
My old co-host.
So I just have feelings of like substitution.
Like I'm like it's like an ex-wife or something.
Yeah, something like that.
An ex-girlfriend. Yeah. Well, in studio we're joined by Michael Berman. He's an environmental activist here at Truman State University. Michael, first off, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
How are you this morning?
Pretty good. It's pretty nice outside. Saw a lot of earthworms.
It was really cold and rainy when
drizzy.
Was going earlier.
Yeah,
but it's like nice and misty now. I don't know. It's kind of pleasant walk.
Yeah, Michael and I were talking about how this is like good running weather, like when there's a little bit of mist. It's kind of having your own personal like mister in your face when you're running.
Hey, yeah. I can get into that.
So Michael is a student. He's a student here at Truman. He's involved with the environmental campus organization ECO. They do some advocacy work among other things. And so, yeah, Michael, I don't know, why don't you just tell us a little bit about how, like, when you first came to Truman as a freshman, like how you kind of like got involved with environmental advocacy stuff, and what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I'm a bio major, and I kind of started learning about conservation and things like that. And so I kind of wanted to learn more about, people's effects on the environment. And so I joined ECO sophomore year, and I also took a class called Expanding Environmental Consciousness. And both of them kind of really got me really interested in, the deeper, understanding more deeply the connections between humans and the environment. And so
Yeah.
I kind of started going to eco, and I started teaching that class actually after I took it, because it's a student-run class. And it's a pretty
That's awesome. I've heard really good things about that class. Like, it's changed people's lives.
It definitely changed mine, and so as teaching it, it's been a really good. I think I want to be a teacher now, so it's a really good
awesome.
it's a really good experience.
Yeah,
So-
Truman.
What kind of like topics are like touched on in that class?
It's a really broad array. So like we read a book called Ishmael, which is like a really really interesting book about pretty much like how humanity sucks and like how like we should not be farming and things like that.
That's all we talk about on this show.
Humanity
kind of.
sucking. But also things like global perspectives of environmental studies to sustainable business to ecofeminism to population control, things like that. Like a very broad range of topics.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
I like kind of regret. That's like one of my biggest class regrets. You know, you have class regrets of classes you haven't taken.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of them.
Oh,
or
so
like the
many.
grassroots environmentalism class. Like that's not offered anymore, but like that's another one that a lot of friends took. Like really cool projects and stuff have come out of those classes.
Yeah.
So
Can people take this course like next semester?
Yeah, it's offered every semester. It usually doesn't go up on the course list until like May.
Oh, really?
Because they have to like find people to teach it and stuff. But it'll be on there, and I'm sure like they would love to have anyone from any discipline to come and join.
yeah, it's been what, this is like the 4th year or something?
No, it's like the 10th or 11th.
Oh my gosh.
It's like
yeah,
the longest
so
running student-led course.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Yes, it's offered every semester. A lot of our friends have taught it before, so it's been cool to see it change hands and yeah.
Yeah, that is cool.
So what's ECO up to now?
Well, ECO is the environmental campus organization, right?
Right.
Okay.
It's up to a lot of different things. We're kind of working on Earth Week with Student Senate. Student Senate's actually taking a leading role on that. So we're doing that. We're also working to put glass recycling, or actually recycling in general, in Lavender School.
Cool.
Yeah, which is because they have none at all. It's a pretty small school, but still, it's a good opportunity.
Yeah.
We're working to collect glass on campus, things like that. It's a very like broad range of things that we're doing.
Okay, so that's what I'm curious about. So I saw the new glass recycling containers.
Yeah.
Like what is the deal with that? Like what's the process now?
So my impression, I'm not like a decision maker in this like at all. So I like don't, quote me on this, but Student Senate is like collecting it and they're storing it in Magruder somewhere, actually in the hazardous waste facility.
Okay.
For some
Where it
reason.
belongs.
Not really sure why. And I believe that they're storing it there until either a glass recycling like operation starts back up in Kirksville, or people are going to take it down to St. Louis and Columbia and
like
Kansas
individual
City.
people just can volunteer to
But it's
take it down?
probably like a huge amount of glass,
Yeah.
and so I'm not really sure how it's going to work out. But I'm sure like either way, you should still put your glass in the sub or in Sea Hall.
Well, I was part of a trial for that, for a program where we collected glass, our own glass, and then we drove it to recycling places in other
I know
areas.
a lot of people, like in a lot of our friends' houses do that. Like I know certain like professor families that every time, like I've gone down to Columbia with them and they'll just like, take the glass down every time they go. Because you go often enough, like once or twice or 3 times a semester that you can take your glass down there.
Yeah, it's feasible to do. Mm-hmm. It's feasible. Well, I went to an eco meeting once my freshman year. What year are you?
I'm a senior.
Okay, so maybe you were there. Maybe we went together.
Perhaps.
So I went to one eco meeting, and the one thing that was striking to me was the organizational structure. That it was, and this isn't a joke, it was just very organic.
That sounds like a joke, but okay.
Everyone's split into groups and everyone's working on different projects for the meeting. And then at the end, they come together and they report to the rest of the group. Is that still how eco operates?
To be honest, we have kind of struggled keeping up those numbers from, I guess, 3 or 4 years ago, because I remember that too. And so we're kind of down to like a few core people who kind of meet and just discuss as a group. But we used to do that, and I remember that working out very well. And hopefully that'll come back with more members. But
I thought it was so great because I could tell that there were people there who were passionate about what they were working on, and the organization just kind of let them roll with what they wanted to do. And it seemed to, my impression of ECO was an organization that was successful in the programs that it put on. It put on a good number of programs, obviously plenty of people at the meetings. And I thought the way they were organized just works so well for what they were doing. Because I've been a part of a lot of organizations, and I think a lot about organizational structure, and I thought ECO, for what it's doing, is just perfect. I just thought that was so good. So if you don't have that anymore, I'm sorry, but man, that was great.
I mean, like, we still have that in the sense that that kind of organization gives everyone a chance to express their opinion and like to, I don't know, let their voice be heard. That sounds so cliche, but it's true.
Yeah.
And that's still true, even though we're like a smaller group. You know, everyone can like voice their opinion, and I feel like we're all on a pretty equal footing.
So it's like you needed that structure when the group was like a lot bigger.
Yeah.
So that, but now it's still the same thing. It's just like less small.
Not
groups.
that we would like to have more people, certainly, but yeah.
Cool. So what kind of issues are going to be talked about at the conference this weekend? Because there's an environmental conference that you've helped coordinate.
Yeah, so Susan Zhu and I are in this seminar in environmental studies class, and we had to put together a project for that class. And so we are running the environmental studies conference this Saturday.
First ever?
Well, it's kind of like a reincarnation of it. It's the first ever, not in my memory for sure, but I don't remember exactly.
We're getting religious now.
Yeah, living memory. So lots of very like disparate issues that kind of like come together in the sense that they're all about like human connection to the environment. So by the way, the conference is from 10 to 5 on Saturday in Violet Hall 1000. And then at 6:30, there's a debate about restoring Bear Creek. Same room.
Oh, cool.
Interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. And so anyway, so we'll talk about Bear Creek, obviously, and the feasibility, ethics, ecology of restoring that. That'll be a debate at 6:30. But there'll also be a lot of different presentations. So like there'll be presentations about literature and examining literature through an environmental lens. There'll be Summer's giving a presentation about women and environment.
Yeah.
If she wants to talk about it a little
Hey,
bit.
what time is that?
I don't know.
I think that's at 3.
3. It's like after lunch, the afternoon.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Sometime. Yeah. Ecofeminism. Woo.
Yeah, eco-fem.
But yeah, so there's there's like kind of like the humanities aspect, but there's also the hard sciences. We have people talking about disease ecology and how that's involved with environment, and we also have people talking about Kirksville and like small mammal populations and where they are like found. And so like I thought it was interesting. Like the one project was looking at like McDonald's and like how there are like higher populations of rats near McDonald's. And it was just like very interesting, like some of it's like very locally focused and some of it's very globally focused, which is funny because we titled it From Local to Global. So look at that. So yeah, it'll be a very broad range, but it'll also be fairly deep in its in its meaning. So
that's awesome.
Great.
That's awesome.
Well, let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more specifically about the conference. We're joined in studio by Michael Berman. He's an environmental activist and helping coordinate an environmental conference this Saturday here at Truman State. You've been listening to Summer and Damian in the Morning on 88.7 The Edge. We'll be right back. Fleet Foxes on 88.7 The Edge. The song Mykonos off Sun Giant is the record. We're joined in studio with Michael Berman. He is an environmental activist here at Truman State University, and you're listening to Summer and Damian in the Morning. Michael, we started talking before the break about the conference this Saturday. Is there a keynote speaker coming, or is there one particular presentation that is the center of this conference?
There is not.
I guess the Bear Creek one is like a big wrap-up thing.
Yeah, although to be honest, it's not really our project. So that debate that's about Bear Creek is actually led by the restoration ecology class on campus. And so while we'll be like introducing them, we actually have nothing to do with it. We're just like advertising it and it's in the same room. So we're kind of claiming it as our own, but not really.
Is that concluding?
Yeah.
The conference
so it's at 6:30. There is no keynote speaker, much like the environmental movement. It's very,
Is it organic?
Yeah. Nice
Just
one.
gotta stop using that buzzword.
Any chance you
Very
can.
organic.
So there's no keynote speaker, but we would love to have people come at all times during the day. We also have free lunch at 1. It's going to be delicious.
Okay.
So
home-cooked
instead of
lunch.
keynote speaker, there's keynote lunch. So I mean,
There
I
you
would
go.
definitely come.
Keynote lunch.
You know what, though? I think this Bear Creek thing would be really interesting. Like, I think a lot of, like, students should come because I think Bear Creek has a very special place in all of our hearts. I mean, like, we have Bear Creek stories. I have Bear Creek stories.
For example.
Well, okay, so I have two. So one, I lived in West Campus, so like Bear Creek is like runs back there, and so like just like funny things about like seeing weird animals in the water and like I don't know, like traipsing through it, like to get from like the parking lot to West Campus. Like you can either go over the bridge or you can go through the creek. But also like in my freshman organic, no, let's see, my Gen Chem lab, we had to do like test the Bear Creek water. That was like part of lab for a couple of weeks. So so intimate connections with Bear Creek.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's happening on campus. You can't really get any more relevant to the Truman population.
No, exactly. Yeah. It's like, and if we're talking about preserving or like redirecting or like doing something to Bear Creek, like it does affect campus. It affects a large part of campus.
Right. So what would be some restorations that would happen to it? What does Bear Creek need?
So Bear Creek is actually, I don't even know if we can call it a creek because it's just like this kind of ditch that's neglected by really everyone. And it's...
I neglect it every day.
Yeah. And so it's just like a stormwater drainage. And in that stormwater, there's a lot of surfactants and things like that come from parking lots and things like that are just like really terrible for the soil, and it causes erosion and things like that. And so there's actually an ongoing effort led by August Curson and Michelle Woolbright to restore it, and they've gotten some approval so far. So they will be planting trees and planting a rain garden on campus, and that will hopefully reduce the erosion that's going on. Because at this rate, like that pathway that runs along Bear Creek will be gone in like 10 years because of the erosion.
Wow. You use that every day, don't you? Or a lot of days.
I do too.
Yeah, every day. So what is a rain garden?
Yeah, so it's a garden of plants that act to collect stormwater, and so it kind of prevents erosion, caused by that stormwater.
Oh, okay.
So excess water doesn't like build up and start like...
Exactly. So we've all kind of seen this happen in Bear Creek. I remember my freshman year, there was huge flooding after this one rainstorm, and like people's cars were literally like just like underwater and stuff.
Wow.
And it's partly because there's just like no ability of the plants, in Bear Creek to actually take up water. And so it just like overflows, and there's nothing in the soil to keep it there. So yeah, and so it's very problematic in that sense, but it's also just not good for the soil, not good for, things that are near there that people use.
Yeah, I like that bridge.
Yeah.
I need that bridge.
So if you were coming back to Truman in 15 years to teach, that bridge got to be here.
Yeah, the bridge better be here in 15. You say we got a 10-year timeline, I'll give you 15. Yeah. So
that's
okay,
cool. I'm excited to hear that. I hope some students come and weigh in on that.
Me too.
Official Summer and Damian event.
Are you serious? Because you better come if you're going to say that.
Hey, what happened to that movie screening last week?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, I'll come. It'll be an official Summer and Damian. I'm enjoying to go. I'm going to enjoy going.
Yeah, it'll be really good.
And it'll be the keynote debate.
Yes.
In their taps. Okay, so you talked about some stuff going on with Eco.
Yeah, I want to know about like what the DC trips are all about. Like you went a few years ago.
Yeah, so a few years ago, I went on this trip to DC to protest
which Eco goes every year.
Not really every year. It's more like every time there's like a protest kind of thing. So,
so you're like fair weather protesters.
Exactly. So I went a few years ago to DC to protest the Keystone XL pipeline, which is actually still like up in the air. But I think that protest, I don't know if it was like that protest or another one, but it kind of spurred Obama to reconsider and make sure that there's a State Department environmental review, which just came out a few months ago, actually.
What did it say?
It said that if we didn't build the pipeline, there would be no like alteration in carbon dioxide emissions, which means like essentially like if we don't build this pipeline connecting oil from Canada down to refineries in Texas, the oil will still be like taken out by Canada and just like refined somewhere else, or they'll transport it on trains or trucks,
which is arguably maybe more costly.
Yeah,
so that's what people are saying,
and also possibly more dangerous in terms of like oil spills. And so honestly, I don't really know how I feel about it, because I can kind of understand where they're coming from. I really dislike the fact that we're in this position to choose between like rock and a hard place. But
exactly.
Like that the demand for petroleum is so high that we are...
Yeah.
Like neither alternative is like a good alternative. Like they're...
Exactly.
Okay. So you went there. What was that like being on the front lines protesting?
It was really interesting. I think that protest, there was like 10,000 people from all over the country. And to be honest, you meet some weirdos at every protest. So it was always interesting. But you also meet some really, really interesting and cool people who are just like not weird, just okay, that sounds bad, but like, people who are just like they really care about this issue, and they just like, people who are like 70 years old and just like, wanted
Sold out to the cause.
Yeah. they just wanted to, preserve their water that they drink. It wasn't, this like huge environmental grandiose issue. It was just like, for them, it was just like literally like the water that they used to farm or the water that they drink, that they didn't want to be potentially contaminated by this oil. So
yeah.
It was a very interesting experience.
Cool. So would you go back? Are you looking to go back?
Well, I mean, protest permitting, I guess. There was a protest a few weeks ago that some eco students had planned on going to, but there was inclement weather, unfortunately.
Inclement weather, of course.
And some eco students went earlier. What was that, last semester? No, earlier this semester.
So no. So it was in October. I think 15 or 10 or 15 eco members and like Truman students went to Pittsburgh for Power Shift, which is this like huge youth environmental conference in Pittsburgh. And so it was a really interesting experience. We did a lot of workshops, and some people stayed behind for a protest against fracking, because Pennsylvania is very affected by fracking right now, and it's kind of like up in the air in terms of the legality of it. So so that was also a protest opportunity for us too.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what other projects outside of Truman are big right now in the environmental movement? Or is there anything you're keeping your eye on?
Well, the Keystone is still up for, up in the air.
Yeah, that's like heating up now even. Like it's like, because the report was just filed, like a lot of like debates are happening.
Yeah, so it has to get approved by, I don't know, a bunch of other departments, like federal departments, and then Obama has to ultimately give his approval, which I personally don't think he'll do, to be honest. But anyway, so there's that. Fracking is obviously a huge issue, and as is mountaintop removal of coal.
And what is fracking?
Fracking is hydraulic fracturing of shale, and it's used to get to natural gas and sometimes also oil. That's like deep beneath the ground, and it's very difficult to get up. And
the controversy is that you have to like go at it like through the water, right? Like it's like at the...
You have to use like tens of thousands of gallons of water, to get to this. And you also have to like use a bunch of different chemicals that are really carcinogenic and dangerous for the surrounding communities. And so there have been a lot of, like there's this movie called Gasland where he goes to these communities affected and he sets a lighter to their water, and like it lights on fire.
Wow.
Because there's so much like methane, there's so much, so many just like different chemicals that are really dangerous in these people's water.
Cool. That's cool. Well, let's take a break. When we come back, we've got some stories about Germany and some other talk. I think because you spent some time in Germany, so you are the resident.
Damian really wants to talk about Germany. He came on the show this morning and he's like, "Man, I got some German stories," and I was like, "Well, perfect," because Michael lived in Germany.
Yeah,
it's weird. You're the resident German scholar.
Okay, I will do my best.
Yeah. So we're here in studio with Michael Berman, and we'll be right back. This is Summer and Damian in the Morning on 88.7 The Edge. He's in the jailhouse now here on 88.7 The Edge, Kirksville's true alternative. That's from the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou soundtrack.
Such a good movie.
Yeah, it's a great soundtrack too.
Yes.
Great soundtrack.
Yeah. So Michael Berman is in the studio with us. Michael Berman is an environmental student activist here at Truman. He's an eco, and we've just been talking about some of the activities that he's been involved with here at Truman. Michael, you're graduating, right?
I am, scarily enough, yes.
So what's the plan for next year?
As you know, Summer, this is not contrived at all. I applied for the Fulbright Scholarship to teach English abroad in Germany.
And why Germany?
So I'm actually a German major in addition to my biology major. And so last year I spent a year studying abroad in Germany, and I literally did not want to leave. And so like as soon as I got back, I was like, okay,
how can I get back
to
Germany?
Bring me back there, like any way possible. I'll teach English. Like I like teaching. So so I'm like waiting to hear back. That could happen any minute.
Yeah.
It could happen in June. We'll see.
So Michael and I were so Michael and I met, like we've been friends for a little bit. We met like right before Michael went abroad to Germany. So like met this kid, and we're like kind of like talking with mutual friends, and then he just like leaves and goes to Germany for a year.
Yeah.
I didn't see him for a year. But then I also was abroad, and I was in Europe for like a little bit, and we were like trying to meet up. Like we were trying to like see if we could meet up in like
Austria
never
happened,
or something. It didn't happen. But yeah, same thing. Like when I got back from being abroad, I was like, how do I get back over there? Like, and apparently Fulbright is one way that you can do that.
So Summer, where did you apply for?
Okay, so I applied for Macedonia, which no one knows where that is. It's north of Greece.
I knew that.
It's in Eastern Europe. Only because I told you.
Alexander the Great is from there?
Yeah, well, disputed. The Greeks, don't tell the Greek people that. They'll get really mad at you.
That's true.
Yeah, they fight over Alexander the Great. Actually, it's really funny because, like, Greece keeps vetoing Macedonia's application for the EU. Because I guess, like, everyone in the EU has to, like, approve of new members. So Greece keeps vetoing it because of, like, this dispute over, like, shared history and shared territory. And so in response, the Macedonian government just, like, spent, like, €1 billion building, like, Greek Alexander the Great type statues in their town square.
Nice.
Redoing their government buildings in like old like Greek style and stuff like that. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. If you ever go to the Euro place, like don't mention Macedonia.
The Euro place?
Yeah, the Euro stop, the Greek stop.
Oh,
the owner got
okay,
really mad at me when I mentioned that I'd been in Macedonia, and he's like, "If you say that word again, I'm not going to let you."
Macedonia? Ooh, they do
Yeah,
not
so be
like
careful.
each other.
Yeah, so Michael and I are both waiting. We're both finalists, and we're waiting to hear back if we get placed.
Anxiously awaiting.
Anxiously
I would
waiting.
say.
Yeah, so they're basically like, here, you're a finalist. We found out, when was that?
It's like January.
January?
Let's say.
And they're like, anytime between now and June,
Great.
we'll tell you.
So like pretty specific, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Michael and I have just been waiting, like every day. We're like, maybe this is the day that we'll find out what our life is going to be like next year.
Yeah.
Probably not.
But I've also been thinking, like, man, if we don't get it, like, we could do anything. Like, you can move anywhere.
It is like freeing, and I've kind of just like wrestled with that notion the last few days as I've been freaking out about it. And I'm just like, if I don't get it, I could just like pick up and like move to Germany, or I could like move to like I could like teach English somewhere else, and like it's like still in my control. It's not like all based on this one thing.
Absolutely.
But the Fulbright's not something you can turn down, apparently.
Or can you?
Well, you like.
What if you got
can.
a Rhodes Scholarship
Oh,
instead?
Well,
Devil's advocate.
yeah, but that's not what we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
The alternative is
we
like
didn't apply for that.
Not that.
or not that. Yeah.
This or if the alternative is like Fulbright or flipping burgers.
But I wonder if everyone that's applying for, like, all of us graduating, all of us who are applying for jobs next year, if we all kind of get to this moment where we're like, we've been preparing for this and we've thought about this and like this is like the dream job, but then when it actually comes down to it and like actually visualizing ourselves doing that job in that place, it's kind of freaky. Like, man, I have to move somewhere where like I don't speak the language and I don't know very much about the culture for a year. I have to like build a life. Like I have to get an apartment and I have to like learn the city and I have to like teach like college students that are older than me and Eastern European. Like it's kind of scary.
But there's a big difference between what you two are trying to do and what a lot of people do, because some people they're gonna go into something that they've been working on, like they've been there. They know they like it because they've done some of it. Maybe they intern there.
True.
Or they work part-time in this office that does that.
That's true.
And so maybe it's not as different. They're like going to go back home and work at some accounting firm. And it's going to be pretty similar. But you guys, well, Michael, you spent a year there, so you probably really like that place. But Summer, you're going somewhere you've never been, no language. Mm-hmm. So maybe there's a difference there. And maybe some people don't get that.
I think that's why it's so exciting and also scary at the same time. So like what you were just talking about, it is like really scary to think about, like just starting over and kind of like finding friends and, teaching English when, we don't really have like proper training and stuff.
Like, what if we're really bad at it?
It's very possible. So, so it is scary, but at the same time, like I'd rather do that and, challenge myself and maybe fail than, I don't know, kind of stick with what the status quo is.
Yeah. So why Germany? Like, how did German and Germany become so important to you?
I really don't know. So I started taking German in high school, and then, like one thing led to another, and like I started taking German in college, and it's my major now, and like, it's kind of just happened organically. I knew I wanted to study abroad when I came to Truman, and this program that I did was like, it was pretty feasible. So I was like, okay, I'll do it, and I did it. And it was, like the German major is such that like if you have like decent language skills, then like the major itself is not that difficult at all. Mm-hmm. And so I filled a lot of the classes with classes I did in Germany. So, it was pretty easy. And
it made sense for your major.
I sometimes do ask myself like, why Germany? Because like, like there is this image of Germany as this kind of like bland, humorless, like culture, which like to an extent is sometimes true, but at the same time, like my time over there has kind of taught me that's not true about any place. Really, like
Yeah.
So what was your favorite part or favorite parts about living in Germany?
I mean, part of it was just the language immersion, and like when I got there, I was like kind of high and mighty, and I was like, oh, I can speak really good German, and then I started speaking, and I was like, oh my god, like they can't understand like a single thing I'm saying, so it's like what am I like what I've been doing the last like 7 years of my life, and so like but as I started trying and failing and and that happened more and more, like it got slowly better, but also just like building connections with people that I would never have had the chance to do, with Germans themselves, but also with other international students and other Americans that I was with.
That's awesome.
That's
I mean,
cool.
I totally relate with you on that, like getting back here to the U.S. and just like your mind being there still. Like we talked about this, like we both have like exhausted the foreign film sections in our respective countries at Pickler. Like I've watched every single film in Hebrew that our library
Really?
owns. Yeah. And I know Michael's done the same for like all the German films.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
yeah, there's like a pull, like you want to get back. It's always fun. It's like fun to travel to new places, but it's like really fun to like revisit places that you've been, and like to take people back to places that you're familiar with.
And kind of like show them why it's special to you. And
Exactly.
I don't know.
I think it's really fun is having friends visit you too when you're abroad.
Yeah, it'd be exciting.
So, Damian, you should come visit us. We're going to meet up in Europe because we're going to be really
you're
close.
you're gonna be so close.
Yeah, and like in Europe, man, it's so easy to get to like see each other. It's
Yeah,
true. It's
yeah,
true.
that's
Trains
the
and
impression I
stuff.
have. It's like the size of it's like the size of Texas.
Yeah.
All of
Well,
Europe.
and
Kind of.
much more much more connected.
yeah. No, that'd be sweet. I think Europe's would be a really cool place to visit.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of stories that I picked up this week from Germany, just weird things that caught my eye. And so, do we all live off campus?
Yes.
Yes.
So we have landlords.
Yes.
And maybe some people I know think they have really horrible landlords, whether it's the maintenance that they do or how unreceptive they are to their needs. But there was a landlord in Germany this week. I think takes the cake for bad landlords. Tried to collect rent from some tenants. It was about $17,000. So it was a lot of money. Tried to collect back rent. And they did it with a chainsaw. They showed up asking for money with a chainsaw.
Oh my
Ready to go,
gosh.
like, chainsaw. And so the tenants freaked out, of course, called the police. And then at gunpoint, the landlord
Wow.
dropped the chainsaw
Wow.
and they took him to jail.
Well, I'm really glad KPM doesn't use chainsaws. We just get a friendly letter sometimes.
Do you? We need that rent. Yeah. KPM, they're not bad
That's
for me.
crazy.
Or something to me.
No,
There's
not all German landlords use chainsaws.
just
Disclaimer.
this
Just that one.
particular.
But
Oh, were there a lot of chainsaws in Germany?
not that I saw, but I was in like the city, so maybe there's like a large lumberjack population elsewhere.
perhaps.
You never know.
Perhaps.
Yeah, and I'd like.
It was really interesting. Like a lot of the Germans on my study abroad program in Israel were from East Germany, and like I didn't realize like how much like East Germany is still like has like this big pride thing, like look what we overcame and like kind of stick together like East Germans type attitude. I thought that was really interesting. Like she had tattoos representing East Germany. Like there's an East Germany car manufacturer that's like a symbol of East Germany.
Trabant,
Yeah,
or
and she
Trabi.
had like a tattoo of that like logo and stuff. Yeah, I didn't
It's
know
like
that.
it's interesting, like that culture, even though it was, in existence for 45 years or something like that, it was a very strong, because it's so isolated from the West that it kind of, it was a very interesting like case of isolationism and how that kind of developed its own culture. And it's true today, like, a lot of East Germany is still like, poorer than the western parts, and like a lot of like where I was in Bavaria, they identify more with Austria than they do with East Germany in terms of like, they told me, like my host parents told me that, when the wall fell or whatever, that they were like, okay, this is cool, but like, what does it mean for us? Like, we have to pay money for them. Like, we have to, they're poorer than us. We have to like, pay higher taxes now probably. So it's an interesting, like, it's not as all like homogenous as we
and
often
like
think of it.
like I thought it was now. The wall's gone and we've had like, 40 years to like get over stuff. But
Yeah.
I didn't realize like how
It's a very like, I don't know, it's a very, split, I don't know, part of,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a very interesting split, I
that
would
is
say.
interesting.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, another story out of Germany. This one gets better. So there was this woman. Her body was found in her apartment after being dead for 6 months. So there's a 66-year-old lady, this German woman. She was found on her couch in her apartment watching TV. And so the thing that happened was she was just watching TV and she just died. The TV stayed on. There was a TV Guide magazine from September. And so for 6 months, this lady was just dying on her couch in her apartment watching TV.
And no one noticed.
No one noticed. They noticed the smell. That's how people got back in. How people noticed. They complained. And the landlord came in.
That's kind of a fear of mine. Not that it would happen to me, but that it would happen to like a friend or something.
But it took
that
6
just, like,
months?
wouldn't notice.
6 months for them to find this lady.
She must have been smelling pretty good. Like, relative to other dead people. Like, how is that possible? You know? Like,
yeah, it's true.
That's true.
Like, how long until people complain?
Yeah.
You know? And the crazy thing is she started to partly mummify, is what they said.
What does that mean? I thought
Started
that's
to
like
be
a...
preserved.
Like liquefied or something. I don't know.
She started to be preserved in, I don't know, in her body. It was pretty crazy.
Weird.
So mummies in Germany. Did you see a lot of mummies? Anything of these stories, I gotta ask you. Were there a lot of mummies in Germany?
Not, not more than usual, I would say. I would say a pretty average number of mummies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Noted.
like 1.2
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
0.2.
Yeah, it's like
5%
an
of the
average.
population,
It's
yeah.
average. Okay, and the last one. This one, I'm really interested. I was joking about asking about all this stuff, but this one I want to know if you saw this. So, giant rats in Germany, but around Europe. So there are these giant rodents that can grow up to 42 inches. That's 3.5 feet.
It's like Princess Bride stuff.
I was going to say rodents of unusual size.
So these big rats, and they infest towns, and they multiply, and it kind of works in waves. It's this animal population, and it gets really big, and then they start killing them off, so it gets down, and then they start to get up again, and they travel all over Europe. And so there's this town in Germany that's right now is really concerned about these giant rats. They're huge. Can you imagine 3.5 foot long rats? And I saw a video of them. You can look up Ratzilla.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, they were in that film.
Yeah, but like that's,
But that's
that
like
was,
probably
like,
what they would
animatronic.
look like. Right?
Perhaps. I don't know.
I'm going to look this up. We
It was
post a
made like
picture.
to be so comical. I feel like this would not be funny.
There's some in Great Britain too.
Really?
There have been
This is
some. Yeah.
that's disgusting.
I must say I've never seen that.
Big rats, and someone has one as a pet, which I thought was kind of
Ew.
Cute. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a cute little rodent.
But
It's
if it like
cat.
bites you or like gives you plague or something, then that's
right?
not
But
what
you
want.
can try to
Yeah.
domesticate it a little bit.
I
Although
don't believe you. Maybe you were reading an Onion article or something.
no, look up Ratzilla.
Radzilla?
Ratzilla.
That sounds totally believable. So is it like on the BBC that you found this? Because like BBC always has the funniest stories.
No, it wasn't. But I should
do
look
have-
there.
they
I should
do have
look.
good
I should look
ones.
BBC stuff. Yeah. Do you see it?
No, this was only 16 inches.
Oh, that's tiny.
Oh, BBC News, giant rat.
Oh,
It's big
there
right
you
now.
go.
It's a big story right now. Lots of rats.
That's not that big.
Hang on. Let's see.
How big is it?
40 centimeters. That's only 16 inches. You thought 40
40
inches.
40 centimeters.
It's 40
Come on.
centimeters, Damian.
And that's big too.
No, it's big. It's
How
big.
big is that?
It's 16 inches. It's more than a foot.
That's a big. No, I've seen some bigger than that.
They're fake.
That's real. You can look at videos.
Okay,
They're like crawling around.
I'm going to post this.
Yeah, post that. I saw one coming out of a toilet.
Ew. Oh my gosh.
You just be on the rats coming out of your toilet in the bathroom.
I can't speak to that, but
You see a lot of giant rats. I want to know in the streets, in the urban areas.
I saw like a decent number of rats, like no more than other places. But I mean, Munich was, so I lived in Munich, Germany, which is in the southern part of Germany, and it's like kind of known for its like super cleanliness and like very like kind of posh, I would say, as the British people say. And so I don't know, maybe in Berlin, maybe in like East Germany, I don't know.
Were there a lot of bicycles in
It's funny you
Munich?
ask because there were a lot
Yeah?
of bicycles. It's a very flat city, so
I
it's very
hear
good for
that
biking.
in Europe they ride bicycles more than we do here.
They do. Although they also take public transit more than we do too.
I know, that's true. Yeah, when I was in Amsterdam, it was funny because the roads in Amsterdam are like too skinny for cars. They're like made
Yeah,
for bicycles.
yeah.
Yeah,
which is
that's
really
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah.
So I've been like really obsessed about bicycles this week.
Yeah.
I like went bicycle shopping, and for my graduation gift, my parents gave me a bicycle fund to
Nice.
spend as I wish. So I've been like doing a lot of research on bicycles. And the invention of the week this week is the bicycle. And so the first known kind of lookalike bicycle was designed in 1817 by the German Baron Karl von Drais, German. And it was called the Velocipede, which means like fast foot. And it was
Nice.
like literally like, okay, so like when we think of the first bicycle, we think of like the huge front wheel and like this like really tiny bike bottom wheel. But the first bicycles were actually like two same size wheels, and the first one was like you straddle it and you walk, and it just like helps you walk faster. So you're like on wheels and you're just like walking.
Does that really work
like
though?
Pacing. It's like striding. It's like helping you balance and like stride so that you're like stretching your legs more.
So it's like cyborg stuff.
What?
It's like robots. It's like an addition to the
Yeah, kind of like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just like helping you get places faster, but you're still doing like all the, I don't know, you're still like walking.
Okay.
So that was the first one, and then from there, and
Was
they're
that
all
popular? Did that catch on?
No, it was more just like for like rich people, like in a club, like had this cool thing that they could like walk around their gardens with.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because it's made out of wood, so it had to be like a smooth pavement, which like back
yeah.
then the streets were cobblestone, so like you couldn't really. It wasn't really functional. But in 1865, the French made like the first like commercially popular type of bicycle. It was also made of wood, and it was called the bone shaker because people did use it on the streets, and it was just like extremely uncomfortable and unstable. So that didn't do so well. But in the 1870s, like we finally were able to like mold metal and kind of like mold metal into like usable objects like a wheel. So we had the first like metal bicycles, which was the high wheel bicycle. And Damian, this was the picture you posted on my Facebook.
The penny
today.
farthing.
Yes. So like the front wheel was so big, and they were trying to make the front wheel as big as they could because they discovered that the bigger the wheel, the further you could get in one pedal. Right. So they were doing that, but like it was extremely dangerous, and every time you like would fall or like hit like something and the bike would tip over, you'd like fall on your head, and there were a bunch of like head injuries. So it wasn't very safe.
But super cool.
Yeah, super cool. Have you ever ridden
Real
one?
dapper. No, I'm going to.
Okay, yeah, you
That's
should.
the goal. That's why I posted
it's
on
kind
your
of
wall.
complicated. I'm actually like really scared. I don't know if I'd ever try it.
Yeah,
It's
I've
kind of
seen-
like a unicycle almost, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
I've seen some videos. It's pretty tough.
yeah. So, anyways,
learning.
after that, they came out with like the safety bicycle, which had a rear pedal instead of like a front pedal. And so that's when the bicycle changed from like a rich man's dangerous toy to like an everyday like transportation
Oh, okay.
vehicle.
And when was this?
The safety bicycle was like the early 1900s. Late 1800s, early 1900s, and they like made tricycles and quadricycles, like so women could use it because women had skirts and stuff. So people started using them more. But then in the early 1900s, we had mass production about the automobile, and the bicycle, unfortunately, in the U.S. like went away, dropped off
Really?
in popularity. Yeah, and in Europe, it gained momentum, right? And so like people. Like technology like grew because of like the demand for it, and so the bicycle was like re-engineered over and over and over again. It became like Europe had kind of a monopoly on like bicycle design, but in the U.S. like we've just been catching up because we've just been so car focused for the last century.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, and it's true. Like when you visit Europe, like you realize like how much like the bicycle is so much more of like a staple for everyone.
Yeah.
It's also so much, I don't know, more. It makes so much more sense. Like cities over there are designed much differently than cities here, and so like you wouldn't actually have to like take it.
Yeah, there's
on the
less
highway.
sprawl. It's more like
much more centered on like a certain city center. So,
but like even all of like the when I was in Amsterdam, like the trains and the metros and everything were very bicycle friendly. Like they had bike racks. You just bought your bike on. You didn't have to pay an extra fee. Yeah, and like they have bike racks like in Chicago and stuff. Like there are places where you can like rent a bike, right?
Yeah.
But like.
Kansas City too.
Yeah, and when I was in Amsterdam, it was like everyone had their own bicycle. They didn't need bicycles, but they just had public racks everywhere, like lining all the streets.
So why did it become more popular in Europe back then? What was the difference?
I wonder if it was just like because the cities were so much older and more developed. Like there's like we kind of were able to build our cities with cars in mind.
Yeah.
Whereas over there, like a lot of I don't know, like when the automobile was introduced, it just maybe wasn't as like feasible in a large parts of the cities. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, so the bicycle.
So if there's one person you had to credit with the invention of the bicycle as we know it now.
I mean, as we know now, I don't know. I just like am so impressed with this like German guy that like he was the first one to think like, oh, these two wheels and a seat and I can sit on it. And although he wasn't pedaling, like it's still, I don't know. I just think that's like crazy. And like the pictures, so there's like pictures of like aristocratic people like walking these.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you post those on the Facebook?
I can. Yeah, they're really good. I just love it. Like the design, like because from that design we like went to really weird places with like the big wheel and the small wheel thing. But that was like the first like same size wheel, like same type of design minus the like pedaling part. But
Well, that's cool. Let's go. The bicycle. I love bicycles too. I hope that wherever I am in 5 or 10 years, I can ride my bicycle to work.
I'm so excited.
Or ride it on.
Bicycles are great.
I ride my bike every day now to class. I didn't, when it was really snowy and icy and all that, I still continue with the bike because I'm not going to leave any earlier. Really, that's not going to happen.
That's impressive, though. You didn't like ever fall.
I fell all the time. It's commitment, though. You
Yeah.
gotta get back up because it's a privilege I have. To
I'm
get to class.
recovering. I had a big bike accident like a couple years ago, so I'm like still recovering.
Like
Like
mentally?
emotionally,
Yeah.
like psychologically.
More like just I need a bike.
Okay. Well, that's about the end of our show. Michael, I want to thank you again for coming in.
Yes, this was so much fun. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, and we have the conference this
Yes.
Saturday.
Yeah, so the conference is this Saturday at 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and there's free lunch at 1, and there's a debate at 6:30 about Bear Creek. So please come.
Good. And where is it?
It's in Violet Hall 1000.
Violet Hall 1000. It's the environmental conference.
Yes.
Well, not quite the first of its kind, but the first of its kind, we'll say.
Yes.
We'll say
Back from the
first one.
dead.
Back from the dead. Good. It's a zombie conference.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Well, you've been listening to Summer and Damian in the Morning. We're here every Thursday morning, 7 to 9 a.m. on 88.7 The Edge.